I'm getting tongue-tied already. I've been trying to make this video. Let's just do this. It's the 10th of November 2016, and this is the start of my NaNoWriMo 2016 weekly vlog check-in series. Bit of a mouthful. Did it last year, did 4 videos for every week of the month of November 2015 when I took part in NaNoWriMo. And for anyone who doesn't know what NaNoWriMo is, it is National Novel Writing Month, where writers around the world, published authors and aspiring writers, they get together, sometimes physically, but more often than not, it's online through Twitter, social media, the NaNoWriMo website itself, the forums, private messaging. And everyone gets together and they try to write 50,000 words of a novel in the month of November over 31 days. And it's a really, really cool community that I'm in love with it. I really am, because it's such an unselfish community where everyone just pushes each other and encourages each other, and it's an unbelievably positive and an open community. It really is, and an accepting community. And in times like this, where people are really questioning the world and things like that, it's nice to just have this really great outlet where I can go onto the NaNoWriMo website, I can go on Twitter, and there are people just saying, go on, you can do it, you can write, get those words in today. And it's just really, really cool. So my history with NaNoWriMo, very briefly, I took part in 2010 and I finished. I started a few days, I think 7 days late. So in 3 weeks I wrote a 50,000 word novel. I don't see that as my first novel. It was called In the Flesh, and I think I see that more as my my prologue book. It's kind of the beginning of me writing proper books. And my writing goes back to when I was 8 years old, maybe even younger, wanting to write my own stories and things like that. And I've always been writing some sort of book, and I've never really brought any of those ideas to fruition. And in 2010 I finally did it, and that was something I knew that I could do. I knew I could write a book, and it had some of my best writing, it had some of my worst writing, and I wish that I hadn't let the story get ahead of me so much with that book. And maybe I can go back to it at one point, I don't know. It'd be quite interesting to revisit it, but that is what it is, and I don't think it's a great book. And then last year I finally had this idea, this great idea, and it was the first time I ever had a fully fledged idea for a book. It begins like this, the middle is like this, and it ends like this. It was the complete picture. Obviously I would have to fill in all the thousands and thousands of details, but I had the genetic makeup of this story, and I fell in love with it, and I poured myself into it, and I prepared for it. And last November I wrote every single day, and I continued on into December, and I wrote 84,000 words of a book that I'm calling, for now, Messages from Dad. And I didn't finish it. I got about two-thirds of the way through the story, it felt like. But by the end of November I was burnt out every single day, writing. And that's the goal of NaNoWriMo, is to push you to write no matter what. Even if it's garbage, just write, get those words down and move on with the story, and you can deal with it all later, and you can edit it later, you can rewrite it later. But just get that word count in, get all those words in, and finish the book, and then you'll have something instead of nothing, right? So it's really about pushing you to do this, and it really worked for me. But by December I thought, I need to take a break. I'll take a week off and I'll come back to it and finish it. After about a week I was like, well, I'm going home, I'm flying home for Christmas, in about a week, so I'll wait until I get home. I'll finish writing it when I get home. So I got home and I didn't feel like writing at home. It felt weird to continue and conclude this story in a different country, even though it was home. It just felt weird. So I thought, I'll wait till I get back to Norway, and I'll finish it in January. And then January came, and I just didn't get into it. I couldn't get back into it. I thought February, I'll do it in February. And then in February I started getting some work in, more kind of editing jobs coming my way. That took up my time, and then February bled into March, March continued into April, April moved into May, and so on. And the longer that it went, the more I felt like the story was gone from me, and that I couldn't get back to it. And that, it just, and also this other thing that kind of entered my mind was that if I go back to it now, I'm going to have to go back and read everything to kind of fresh myself up on all the details that I've put into it so far. And to go back and read those 84,000 words and not kind of get distracted by, oh, I need to change that, oh, I need to rewrite that, cut that bit out. I don't want to start editing this book until I finished it. So I was just inside my own head for this past year about getting back to the book, and I thought to myself, right, we're almost at National Novel Writing Month 2016. Let's finish it the way I started it. Let's do it again. And even, you know, a week before November started, I was just thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I really don't know if I'm going to be able to come back to these characters, come back to this story, and feel like I'm plugged into it again. So, 1st November, I sat down and I couldn't write. I just couldn't write. I couldn't get back into it, and I was skimming through the book trying to refresh myself, but it just wasn't coming to me. And I sat there for hours and hours, and then midnight came, and I'd written nothing, and I was trying to get back into it, and it wouldn't come. And I said to myself, Luke, you need to do this. You need to finish this book. It's a story that you care about. You're passionate about it. Let's fucking do this. So I didn't go to bed until I'd gotten down at least 1,667 words. Now, if you are to kind of be really mathematical about it, in National Novel Writing Month, 31 days, if you sit down and write 1,667 words each day of November, you will get to 50,000. Now, I'm not aiming for that now because I might not need another 50,000 words to finish the book. But I want to stick to it anyway, and I want to hold myself to that 1677 or 1667. So that's what I did, and as I did last year on Instagram, I'm posting kind of screenshots of the book as I write it, and kind of just checking in, you know, and it was great to go back and look at what I'd done last year with the Instagram post and kind of refresh myself on how I was feeling throughout the month. So day 1. Or the early hours of day 2, but I count it as day 1. 1,811 words, almost a bigger struggle than the entirety of last year's National Novel Writing Month. Getting back into the groove of this story was incredibly difficult, but returning to my characters was very satisfying. Time to finish their story. By the end of that writing session, I was probably up till about 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, it took me almost the sum total of 8 hours to get down, you know, not even 2,000 words. But it was a struggle that I needed to go through, I think, and it was a mental block I needed to push past. And I did. So day 2, 1,173 words. Wait, 173? That must be wrong, because I definitely did more than that. So I'm going to have to try and correct that if possible. I think I did 1,773 words. Barely snuck past the goal, yeah, and pushed forward, starting to get back into the heads of George and Aira, who are 2 of the main characters in the book. Day number 3, 2,850 words. I really got a bit of a boost that day. Powered on, fueled by word sprints and some much welcome drama in the story. Yes, word sprints on Twitter are when loads of people do it on Twitter, but there's also the official NaNoWriMo word sprints Twitter account where someone will take over the account for a couple of hours and say, right, everyone, go and write like crazy for the next 20 minutes and we'll check in, tell us how well you did. And so everyone sends in their word counts and we kind of push each other and stuff. It's really cool. And that's been a big help this first week. Day 4, 1,970 words. Another tough night that took far longer than I would have liked. And yes, the creeping self-doubt. Welcome back to the fold. Yes, I started to experience again that feeling of, Luke, this book is shit. You're a terrible writer. No one's going to want to read this. This isn't as good as a book should be. Just give in already. And it's just like, you have to fight that voice. You really have to fight that voice with everything you got, because I think everyone gets it. Everyone gets that self-doubt, and it's really hard to kind of push it out of your mind and not let it defeat you. But again, just got to push on, roll on. Day number 5, 3,419 words. It was double up day, where NaNoWriMo, they kind of campaigned to get more donations in for the website and for the course and everything like that. They do a lot of good stuff with charity, things like that. But also they encourage you to double up your word count. So I decided to try and do double the amount of the 1,667. So I did. I did just that, and I wrote twice as much. Really enjoyed getting this chunk of the story going. And then I think we have day 6, which was 1,730 words. Past 10k milestone for this year's NaNoWriMo, and I'm now closing in on 100,000 words for the entire book. Getting harder, but pushing on and on and on and on. And then finally, day 7, 2,170 words. The book broke 100,000 words with this. Gulp. Yeah, so I'm over 100,000 words of the book now, and I know that it's outside of the norm for someone to take part in NaNoWriMo to finish a project, but I started the project with NaNoWriMo, so it only feels right to finish it with it. And it really is open. It really is open for anyone, I think. There's no real rules about what book you should be writing, whether it should be one book or anything like that. You know, hell, write 5,000-10,000 word novellas if you want to. It's really open, and again, I like the way that it feels like that. And yeah, so it's now day 10, and been a bit of an interesting one because yesterday I wrote nothing, but then yesterday at like 4 in the morning I was writing, so I kind of did. I'm kind of working backwards in that sense. I'll write in the early hours of, say, the 8th, and I'll count that as my words for the 7th. And so last night I went to bed at like 10 o'clock to try and catch up on some sleep because my sleeping pattern's all over the place. And then I got up this morning at like 7 and then wrote a couple of thousand words earlier. That's going to be my word count for yesterday, and I'm going to write again in the evening today. So I'm keeping up, and I'm making sure that every day has a couple of thousand words to account for. And you know, how is the book going? It's going very well. I think that I'll be finished within the next 2 weeks, if not earlier. I could see this taking only another week to finish, but I don't want to rush myself or kind of put a date on it or anything like that. And it did feel weird to come back to it, because coming back to a book that you started writing and kind of stopped writing a year ago, to me felt like never talking to your best friend. You know, it felt like, you know, for no reason at all, I just stopped talking to my best friend, and then a year later I went, "Hey, how's it going?" And the best friend is like, "It's going good. How are you? You haven't talked to me in quite a while." "Yeah, well, you know, I thought we could just hang out or something. You know, does that sound alright?" I guess. Bit weird. We haven't spoken in quite a while, but sure, I guess. "Alright, cool. This is going to be fun." Okay, I guess it could be. And then you got to try and break through that awkwardness and get back into it again until finally it feels like your best friend again. So there we go. That's been my first week of National Novel Writing Month, and I knew I wouldn't be able to sum it up quickly, but that is what it is. I ramble, and I feel like most of the book is rambling, but anyway, and if you don't know what the story of the book is, all I'll say is that it's about a teenage girl, or a young adult. She kind of grows up a little bit throughout the book, and her dealing with grief, mortality, love, and her sense of being, you know, her identity, who she is, what she stands for. Which all sounds very generic, but it's a coming of age story that's framed in an interesting way, I'd like to think. And I don't think that it's a great idea, I don't think that it's a great book, but I think it's the best that I've got so far. And I think people might enjoy it. And that's worth fighting for in terms of pushing past my self-doubt. And this is a book that I'm going to get published. I don't care how I do it, I don't care if it takes me 20 years, I'm going to publish this book. And I could slap it on Amazon right now as an ebook and not even spell check it, and that could be it, and it would be a published book on Amazon. But I don't want to do it that way. I want to have it published. The goal is to have this properly published. The goal for this book is not to be a bestseller, it's not for it to be a success, it's not to make me famous. The goal for this book is to have it be published to the point where someone could be waiting for a flight and walk into an airport kind of newsagents and just see the book on the shelf. Pick it up, have a look at the back, read the synopsis and think, that's quite interesting, I might give that a look. That's all I ever want out of this story, is to share it with the world and just have it be there for someone to discover it. You know, that is the ultimate goal for me. And it goes back to, again, when I was a kid, wanting to write books, wanting to be an author, and that's the dream. So, you know, it's been a bigger dream of mine than being a filmmaker, because I've had it for longer, you know, since I was, you know, again, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, I started writing my own stuff. So there we go. Thank you for watching and listening, and roll on the next week, and I'll check in with the book and National Novel Writing Month for the week number 2 vlog, and who knows, there might not even be a third and fourth one if I finish the book before then. We'll see what happens. I'm even thinking about now, if I get to finish this book halfway through the month, I might just spend the next half of the month writing a short story or something and just kind of, you know, taking a breather. Or I don't know. I really want to get to 50,000 words, even if it's with 2 projects. So I think I'm going to try and do that. But either way, I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video and or vlog. Yeah, goodbye.
I am called King Computer.